Vance, one of our new members from my state of Ohio, is recognized. Welcome.
Thanks, Mr. Chairman. And I guess since there's no Republicans between me and you, that makes me the ranking member here. Is that I'm drunk with power for the next 5 minutes here.
Thank you
for having me. I wanted to direct my first question to Mr. George, and one of the things I've seen reported on lately is the idea, and we've certainly seen evidence of this in the data, that you have this massive influx from more progressive states into typically red states, sometimes very rural, from a very affluent portion of the home buyer population. What have you seen? I mean, and I'm talking places like Florida, Montana, Idaho, Utah, and so forth. What effects are we seeing on housing prices from this influx of a pretty affluent group of home buyers? Is housing supply keeping up, and if not, why?
Thank you, Senator Vance, for that question. I agree. We are seeing this. It's hard to parse out in the data because it's still a relatively new phenomenon. There's no doubt that there was what we would call, and I'm not a demographer, but there was population churn as a result of the pandemic. And according to some of our analyses and mortgage analysis and various other housing data analysis, it does appear as if much of that population growth is in areas of high amenities or in relatively close proximity to large metropolitan areas. What we hear, again, we're trying to see in the data, and we've seen this some in mortgage prices, but is an acute shortage of rental housing in many of these communities. In general, many rural communities lack a good source of, or a good stock of affordable rental housing. And when you have that relatively small stock, much of that is being, for lack of a better term, gobbled up or purchased up in many rural communities. And it's, it's particularly causing housing affordability challenges among rural renters.
Great, thank you. Mr. Dietz, I want to direct this one to you. So this actually, staff brought this to my attention. I wasn't aware of this, but if you look both at the United States, but also a lot of other OECD countries, you see this really stark decline in productivity of construction workers going back to the 1970s. I'd love to hear your thoughts on what's driving that. I mean, we sort of think of all of the innovations in technology, but somehow we're less productive as a society than we were half a century ago. What's going on there?
Yeah, I mean, some of it could be a data issue. We're not measuring the
Sure.
remodeling sector correctly. But I think if we think about the economics, the challenge here is that the regulatory cost burden has grown during that period of time. So when we're talking about productivity, we're talking about output per worker, literally the number of homes and apartments we build per construction worker. And it's a real challenge. It's both an impact of the labor shortage itself, but it does point to some opportunities. If we can get the regulatory burdens down, I think we can see a great deal of innovation in the home building sector. Things like off-site construction, more capitalization of the work site, smarter products, and all those represent real market opportunities for the industry.
Yeah, I mean, it occurs to me that we all agree and think it's important to have basic public safety for both the construction workers, but also the things that they build. But if productivity has declined or stagnated for 50 years, that of course means a lot of our construction workers are not earning the wages they should be earning. It also means a lot of the homes that we're building maybe are not as high quality as they should be. I want to just sort of finish with one observation here. And this is obviously a focus. The immigration crisis that we have in this country is a focus of especially this side of the aisle, the conservatives. It's something that we talk a lot about. But I want to make this observation because I think very often we talk about the immigration problem, certainly in the state of Ohio for very good reasons, as a fentanyl problem. Obviously, that affects the housing stock and the housing situation a little bit. But it's mostly a human problem, just the basic misery and the death and destruction caused by it. We talk about it as a law and order problem. But I want to plant the seed both for our colleagues on my side of the aisle, colleagues elsewhere, and also for those of you who are interested in this issue, that if you think about what it means to have 20 or 25 million undocumented illegal immigrants in a country in a situation where we're not building enough housing, that puts incredible pressure. You have way more buyers for way fewer homes, and that puts incredible pressure on home buyers and people who just want to live a good life. I'm a very strong believer that we should think about our immigration problem and our immigration crisis as an economic problem as much as a cultural or law and order problem. Immigration in this country right now, illegal immigration in this country, means wage theft in the form of competition for jobs from lower wage, migrants. And in this instance, in the context of housing, illegal immigration means theft of the American dream of housing when you have 25 million people who shouldn't be here by law competing with American citizens to buy their first home, to rent a home, and that is a major problem that we should be talking more about in the context of the immigration crisis. That's it. Thank you.
Thanks, Senator Vance. Senator Warren.